Hey there guys, I'm John Campia. Welcome to my movie vlog, and this is my latest review in a series of reviewing video game cutscene movies that's become a really cool new form of entertainment for people like myself to watch on YouTube over the weekends. And this installment is reviewing the cutscene movie of Rockstar Games' 2010 game, Red Dead Redemption. Just want to remind you guys, I am not reviewing the video game as a game. I'm reviewing the cutscene movie as a form of sit-down entertainment. So anything positive I say about it isn't necessarily about the game. Anything negative I say about it isn't necessarily about the game. But speaking of the game just for a minute, back when this game came out, it was a revelation about what you could do with these style of games today. The storytelling in it at the time was top-notch. The graphics were incredible. The huge breadth of the world. The gameplay itself was great. It was really a fantastic game, and we've got a sequel coming out later this year. But we're here to talk about the cutscene movie itself, and in Red Dead Redemption, the movie, if you will, and by the way, I'm reviewing the roughly 4-hour and 30-minute version there is on YouTube. There's some that's a little bit longer. There's a couple of shorter ones as well, but I'm particularly talking about the one that's a little over 4.5 hours long. The movie is basically about John Marston, who you see right here, a guy who used to be an outlaw, and now he's trying to change his life. Unfortunately, the government comes along and they kidnap his wife and son in order to blackmail him into doing their dirty work, something that the government does all the time, I'm sure. Anyway, the government wants him to track down and bring in or kill 3 members of his old gang, starting with Bill Williamson, who's held up at the local fort. The adventures take him all across the countryside, even into Mexico for a while, until we get to the end of the film. And right off the bat, I'll just say this. Red Dead Redemption, the cutscene movie, not quite on the same par as recent video game cutscene movies I've talked about, such as Uncharted 4, Last of Us, Injustice: Gods Among Us, just as a sit-down piece of watchable entertainment, which this was never meant to be in the first place, but as a piece of sit-down and watch it entertainment, it doesn't quite live up to the greatness that the game was in and of itself. By far the best part about this game is the central character, John Marston himself, as a former outlaw, a rough guy, but good-natured, a man who's trying to change himself and change his destiny, and is dragged back kind of like that Godfather line. Every time I try to get out, they drag me back in. That's kind of what I kept hearing in my head going over and over again as I'm watching his story unfold. He is the one truly sort of fleshed out character in this game, and as the game progresses, you feel like you're getting deeper and deeper into who and what he is, and you appreciate him more as a character as it goes, and I just really loved it. I thought his dialogue was sharp. Obviously, he's a big badass in the West, and I liked his backstory a lot too, so he was clearly the best part of this show. Unfortunately, as a piece of narrative storytelling, while the setting is really cool, and while the context is really nice, there are no other fleshed out characters, like to any degree. Like every other character that comes across this game, and John comes across a lot of different characters because he needs to assemble this group of people to help him do something. But in order to get them to do something for him, he's got to do something for each of them individually. And it's a lot of zigzagging in the narrative. But every one of these characters that he comes across, I feel like you know everything you need to know about this character once they speak 2 lines. Like once every character says their first two lines, you know everything about these characters. You know exactly how they're going to respond. They are completely one-dimensional, which is really unfortunate when they did such a good job with the John character. And as far as the narrative path goes, you look at a game like Uncharted 4 and a cutscene movie that I did a review for that recently, and yes, there are side missions and side quests that have to be done, but as a piece of narrative storytelling, it all flows really well, and you can feel how each side mission is interwoven and connected with the overall narrative and the overall plot of the cutscene movie or the story of the game, if you will. In Red Dead Redemption, it doesn't play that way. Like, in the gameplay when you're playing it, it's great. But as you're sitting down and watching it as a piece of entertainment, it really does feel completely disjointed. I feel like narratively, when they do these side missions, it just pulls you completely away and just forgets and ignores everything else that's going on in the game. And so it felt disjointed and felt weird. And I never felt like I was watching a from beginning to end storyline with side things interwoven. It just felt disjointed and kind of all over the place, which is only highlighted again by the fact that we had these one-dimensional characters inhabiting each of these side stories, and it just makes for a bit of a narrative mess. Although I will say the conclusion of the story is very satisfying. It's a very ballsy ending conclusion to the movie, to the cutscene movie. If you get all the way through it, and I have a hard time believing you're going to be able to get all the way through it, but if you do, it is a very satisfying ending, and I'll definitely give it that. Overall, Red Dead Redemption is a great example of a wonderful game that feels like it has great story as you're playing the game. But when you actually step back and then just watch it as a story, divorced from the gameplay itself, you realize, this narrative is actually a little bit weak. Overall, I'm not going to recommend that you use your time to sit down and watch either the 2-hour version or the 4.5-hour version. Just as a standalone piece of narrative storytelling, it just doesn't cut it. But the important thing here is, guys, what do you think about this whole thing? Have you watched the Red Dead Redemption cutscene movies? If so, jump down to the comment section and leave me your thoughts. What did you think about the game overall, by the way? It was a fantastic game, by the way. While you're here, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, click the thumbs up button, follow me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, simply at John Campea. You can see that right there. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.